Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. In today's session of Visual JForex, we will be considering the data types. This is the second part. Yesterday we had considered the built-in data types which are there in the Java programming structure. Now, as we are going deeper into the Visual JForex documentation, we will consider the custom-made data types which are now part of the Visual JForex library, and these are kind of instrumental for our structure, our algorithm to work, and we will see in details. So this is the whole list of the data types which we are going to be using in coming sessions. So in today's session, we are trying to get familiar with some of the data types. In yesterday's session, we had finished off till the string, so we will consider the some of the data types which we couldn't in yesterday's session. So here we get started. We will see the instrument, and here we have the list, and in yesterday session we had considered integer, date and time, double, period, signal, boolean and string. So here we start with the instrument. As you might be aware, of course, instrument is all there. It is for us to determine the classification of different financial pairs, and if we are going to trade in the forex, then we will be considering the instruments like euro USD or USD JPY. If we are trading in CFDs, then of course the instrument changes, and we have to consider the CFDs based on the various major equity indices, and we mostly happen to trade on the Dow Jones or DAX. Of course, there are many currencies as well as many equity indices instrument, so you can choose any. So whenever you want to define a particular underlying pair, you can create an instrument data type, and then there are further two subtypes, value types here, and one is a pip size and a pip scale. I will explain to you on the platform itself. Suppose if you are creating a new variable here, and in it if you choose the instrument, then you will get this draw down list, and in it you can choose any instrument which you want to trade with. So here you will have all these lists at your disposal, and for example, let us take cat JPY, and suppose if you are going to name it, say, my instrument, so you can create this new variable, and then you can choose it wherever you want to use it, and it will work fine. So here we have these parameters as well. The global has been defined as false, so it won't be read, this value won't be used all over the algorithmic structure, and then you can also put it in a particular group after the group has been defined. So this is the instrument data type. Now moving on to the candle. When we create a candle, here you will get all price action data of that particular defined period. Suppose the candle is of 10 seconds, then you will get the price action data for 10 seconds. Suppose it is for the day, then you will get the data for the day. So this is the data type which is of high importance. Of course, all these data types are of have their own due importance, but particularly so for the candle, we are going to rely on the candle data quite extensively. So you have to be well aware of these functionalities and how to use the candle data. In candle data type, you get this candle high, candle open, candle close, candle low, candle volume, candle period, candle instrument, and candle time. And as I said, whenever you are building any particular algorithm, and when you want to define any particular logic, you will have to take into account all these values, and then define suitably, and then your algorithm will be ready to execute the trades. And in these subtypes, you also have primitive data types here, and this value, these most of these are defined in double, and then all these three on the lower side, starting from 6 to 8, are of different data type. So here you have to be mindful of these data types. As I have already said earlier during earlier session, uh, we need the data type to be same for two variables to interact amongst them, and whenever we are also taking the final value of any calculation, we need to make sure that the data type is a match of the requirement. So suppose if we want to use that calculation or the result of any particular calculation, then we have to match that data type with the data type of the place where we will be using that value later on. So we have to be mindful of this. Message type, suppose if you want the trading to happen after a particular event, then in such scenarios you can define this trade message type, and the initiation will happen only after this particular event has passed, and that's why this message type has been defined. So here you can have this and here you can have these subtypes. The message types can be a position reject, position submit, position field rejected, position close reject. So you have all these drag down options in this message type, and you can then use this to initiate the fresh round of trading activity. So it depends on your requirement here. Now moving on to the offer side. Offer side can be of two types, ask and the bid. As you might be aware, we have the spread in between ask and bid. So you need to be quite clear on which price the buy or sell to happen. So you have to define the offer side of any instrument, and if suppose if you choose here for your variable, and offer side is also of high importance while you are defining the indicators. So you have to be pretty sure on which side the trade to happen, on which price the trade to happen, because there are many times there is substantial gap in between the bid and the ask, and because of that spread you need to take this into account. Moving on to the command structure. Command is a position command, and it is going to come into play during the execution order. Your order can be of two types, the current market open or the pending open. So in that scenario you have to define your order status, and for that you have to rely on the command structure. Suppose if you here choose the command as your data type, then you will have these orders order commands, which are going to be fairly different depending on the variant you are choosing. So here place offer, place bid, sell stop, ask, buy limit, buy bid, buy stop, buy bid. So you have all kind of command executions, and as I said, they come into play when you are going to place a pending or a market open. Moving on to the state of so here this will define the order status. You can say whether it is closed, cancelled, created, failed, or open. So here you have this data type, and it will let us know what is the current state of any order which we have placed with the system. So suppose if you are even going to take a look on this, then you will see different status state of the current orders. So here you can see created when the order is created, but it is yet to be opened or filled or closed or cancelled. So you have these 4 5 different states. Now moving on to the applied price. Applied price specifies the price to which the indicator is going to rely on, and 6 different prices are available. One of them is the close price. You can take high price, low price, closing price. So here all these needs to be well defined. So here we take into account the applied price. So here you have these options, the median price, the typical price, and all these prices are calculated differently, and your indicator values, your logical values will be different depending on the kind of start value you are choosing. So you need to be fairly clear about applied price which you are going to use for your setup, and your indicators will yield different results on the different applied price. Suppose, as you can see here, if we go to this let us go to the chart here, and if you consider the closing price of any particular candle, the closing price is different, the high price is different, low price is different, the open price is different. If you calculate median price, then it will be different. So this is one variable which makes a lot of difference on how the things are calculated and how the indicators are going to behave. So applied price is one thing you should never take lightly, or you can use it dynamically as well. You can make changes to get your algorithm very well optimized. Moving on to the signal type. Signal type is the variable which specifies which signal generates the strategy component. So here you will have this my signal type, and suppose if we are going to define it, then you have to choose this signal type. This is signal type. Let me see if it is one and the same. Yes. And as I wanted to tell, you have to take into consideration all these signal types and the position buy, position sell, position close, position modify, and position merge. All these are into play here, and you have to be fairly sure about which type of signals are going to be passed on to the algorithms trading machine to final execution, and that's where the signal types come into play. Now the next data type is MA type. Moving averages can be of different types: SMAs, EMAs, DMAs, or various other moving averages as well. So here you have to be sure, and many of these MA types are used differently in different indicators in different scenarios. So you have to define the MA types upfront, and that helps us avoid the confusion down the line. So here we will consider the MA types which are available in the Visual JForex documentation. As I said, SMA, EMA, WMA, DEMA, TEMA, TRIMA, KAMA, MAMA, T3, HMA, LWMA, SFMMA. So we have all these variants of moving averages, and whichever suits your purpose, you have to choose that particular image type, and then revolving around that image type you can define your algorithm. Now moving on to the position. Here, position, this is the data type which contains the positions or the order data. So if your trade is right now open, then you will have the position open. So this is the status of the current algorithmic trade, and it will help us determine whether we want to trade any further or not. Many a times we define the limits on the position which can be currently open at the same time. So in this scenario, the position data type is uh, of due importance, and then it also is fairly complex, and as I will try to explain to you, suppose if you are going in for a creation of position data type, then you will not really see any further subtypes, and the current position. You can use this data type, define the output of the pending open or the market open, and whenever the position comes into existence, you will have that, and then you can put it in the loop viewer or whichever algorithmic variable you want to create, and then you can use it for further extension of the setup. Now message, as I said, it is going to initiate this start point trade event. Many times when we are defining the start point on the trade event, we rely on the message type to initiate fresh iteration of the trading cycle, to check on the current status of the affairs in the market, and if the things fall in line, if things are up to our requirement, then the new trade will be initiated. So from that point, the message data type is of due importance here. Now we are entering the fag end of these data types. So one more thing to take note of is signals. We have already seen the signals. Data types description, and that was singular, this is plural. So you can have these signals variable created, and these this is of particular importance when we are using a existing strategy as a single block, and we don't really want the prior strategy to execute trade, but only generate signals and then use those signals as a building block of further you can say by adding further requirements, further logics, and using these signals to act as a kind of validation, and then going for a trade execution. So in that scenario, the signals data type can come particularly handy. Tick, as you might be aware, this is a tick value. You will have this tick bid, tick ask, tick bid volume, tick ask volume, and all these subtypes are there, and tick is kind of basic, you can say tick is the how we see if the price is changing and in which direction, and then we have these multiple subtypes which help us determine the current state of affairs. So all these types are also of due importance here, and there is a singular you can say singular variable, singular data type on which the whole foundation of the electronic trading is best. Suppose if there is no tick, then of course we can't trade, and that's why it is, you can say, a singular building block to whole algorithm which we will be building on. So here we are done with most of the data types, and I hope you have been able to understand this documentation well. And if need arises, you can of course raise any question in comment section, or you can even think about getting some practice by trying to create your own data types or variables using the existing data types. And as I said, this will come handy once we graduate to developing fresh algorithms down the line. So it is of particular concern that at this point in time you understand these building blocks well, and data type being one of the high importance structure, high importance constituent components, you can name it either way. So you have to pay due attention and try to get well familiar with it. So that's it from my side for today's session. If you have, as I said, any query, you can write it in the comment section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. We will be back tomorrow. Till then, have fun, stay safe, and goodbye.